Hello everyone and welcome to the 2021 Porsche Macan GTS. This compact crossover has been on the market for a fair few years now, but it's the first time that I've been able to test out this product. And there was a few perspectives that I had on this vehicle before I even stepped into it, largely based around my experience with the Audi Q5 and SQ5. I've driven a handful of those vehicles in both generations, and this Porsche Macan is based on the previous gen of that Q5. Now, it isn't that simple. There are a significant amount of changes that Porsche went through to develop their own compact crossover. So for example, 70% of the components in this vehicle are different to what they would be on the Q5. It's built in an entirely different factory to what the Q5 is. And for the midlife update of this vehicle, Porsche changed things even further. So there was some cosmetic things on the outside. We've got that big light bar across the back that gives it more in line looks with the new Cayenne and the 992. And the suspension was changed around a fair bit too, moving from steel components to aluminium components in the suspension system. This 2.9 litre twin turbocharged hotvee V6 with the 7-speed dual clutch PDK and a rear biased all-wheel drive system. So there's a lot of fundamental components that aren't shared with the current Q5 or SQ5, and the Macan really has its own identity. I've driven practically every vehicle in this class, and yet there's nothing quite like the driving experience in this Macan. And what I will come to reveal throughout this review is that if you prioritize driving above all else, you should look no further than the Porsche Macan. So let's get onto the road so I can share with you all my thoughts about this GTS. Okay, so first thing to discuss, the midlife update for the Macan came in 2019, and then for the 2020 model year, the GTS was launched. The GTS version of the Macan comes with some exclusive features like the 20-inch black rims you see on this model, lots of glossy black exterior trim, the adaptive air suspension system with Porsche active suspension management, and the black-tipped sports exhaust system. Of course, being a Porsche, there's a lot of additional option box ticked on this model that heavily inflate the price, and some of the standout features that are options on this vehicle include the Bose sound system, the 18-way adjustable driver and passenger seats, the panoramic sunroof, and the torque vectoring plus system. This V6 produces 375 horsepower and 383 pound-feet of torque, and it's by far one of the most engaging, best sounding, and really most characterful V6s I think I've ever tried out. Most feel like appliances. They feel like a compromise to try and get big power out of a small engine where maybe a V8 would have once lived, but of course we're not going to get a V8 in a Macan. So this really does feel like the best of what Porsche can offer, with so much enthusiasm that you want to take advantage of that power. And with something like the dual clutch PDK transmission, you can take advantage of that power. And when you leave this thing in automatic mode, the shifts are largely imperceptible. There's a coasting function, saves you a little bit of fuel, and the automatic stop-start system isn't too bad. I've noticed quite a few dual clutch systems can suffer with the calibration of auto stop-start. This one, not too bad at all. And because it's a Porsche, we can take advantage of a few different driving modes. Here on the dial on the steering wheel, you can go from Comfort, Sport, Sport Plus, and Individual. And in the center of this dial, you have the Sport Response button, where for 20 seconds, it's max attack mode for the Macan, and all of the power can be surged as early on as possible. The steering wheel itself is gorgeous with the open space in the spokes. It's like an old motorcycle in that sense, where you can see the other side of it. And separate from changing around the driving modes, you can change around individual functions with the Macan. So let's say you want traction control off, you want the firmer dampeners, or you want to lower the suspension down entirely, or the exhaust. You can all do that with literal single touches of a button. And I like having that separation, because sometimes you just want a little bit of music, you want a little bit of fun in your day-to-day commute. So you just hit the exhaust button, you go down a couple gears unnecessarily, and then you have all of this thrill from this butterfly exhaust. So you can really bring out this engine and get all of these wonderful additional elements to the exhaust. So not only in itself is it a good noise, but every upshift, you get a little additional explosion. And then going back down the revs, this is what a driving vehicle is all about. You want to push it. You want to just be a little bit leery on a straightaway road, and the Macan can allow you to do that without ever really getting you into any serious amounts of trouble. The brakes are excellent, perfectly optimized for a vehicle like this that gives you a great sense of stopping precision. Obviously, I like cars, I like driving, so the Macan is an easy standout in this class. But what I think it does so successfully is that if this had to be your one vehicle in a small family, it doesn't feel like it's so focused as a driving machine that it would punish anybody else or make sacrifices for anybody else that doesn't particularly care for driving, because the ride in of itself is actually quite comfortable. Even though the steering is on the heavier side of things, it just locks in a line so you don't have to constantly correct it on a long highway commute. And the PDK is smooth enough in an automatic mode that anybody that didn't know the difference of a traditional automatic or a dual clutch wouldn't think this was anything particularly different. And with the butterfly exhaust turned off, everything just fades away in the background, just like everything passing by you in your rear view mirror. So this driving experience simply is nothing like a Q5 or an SQ5, because those vehicles are very isolated, kind of like stasis chambers. They just want you to get from point A to point B, and I've said in the past that the Q5 can feel quite appliance-like. No bad thing if you're wanting a premium vehicle, but not really something that sparks my fancy. This Macan, against the Q5, against really anything else in this class, is truly a standout. Now let's move over to the interior, because what we're looking at is a mix of old and new for Porsche. When we're talking about new, we've got the 10.9-inch touchscreen that we're seeing in the new Panamera, 992, and the Cayenne. And here it's integrated quite nicely. They changed around a few of the button layouts and the vents for this new touchscreen, so it doesn't at all look like an afterthought. And then for the old, we have the vast array of buttons. Yes, there are a lot of buttons, but it's all very simple. You've got the cluster for your temperature and fan, you've got the cluster for where you want the air to blow, and then all of the separate buttons for the different functions of driving. So it all looks very smart, and interacting with all these buttons feel really crisp, really well engineered. The touchscreen itself actually is very responsive and very clear too. Great graphics. There's not too much to play with there, but for Apple CarPlay, you put that up on the screen. It doesn't go full screen. You are locked into this split view. So using this system, nothing really to it, but very well put together. And on that note, all of the other components in this Porsche feel fantastic. The 18-way seat, if you're a tall guy like me, will accommodate you very, very well. You can adjust the support on the thigh bolsters and the side bolsters. There's thigh extension, and with the Alcantara, it gives a nice little grip on you. Having the clock right above the touchscreen is just a gorgeous look. And visibility in every direction, surprising to say, is very, very good. Biggest downfall with the Macan though is its very small second row space. Even for a compact crossover, this is pretty tight. I'm 6'4". I could sit behind myself in pretty much all compact crossovers today with no concern. This one, definitely not the case. And the transmission tunnel in that rear seating is pretty tight, so keep it to 2 children at maximum, I think, for the Macan. Adding on to that, the transmission housing does eat away a little bit into the front passenger footwell too. It's great that the Alcantara and the red stitching finds its way back there too, and the seats can split 3 ways. Talking a little more about practicality, when it comes to the trunk space, I've already mentioned that you can squat the rear down, and it is a very wide, very open space. There's a space saver spare wheel found underneath the false floor. Couple of small things I want to note before I wrap up this review. It has to be said that the GTS stickers that are on this car do seem to be peeling and fading away a bit. This is a press vehicle, so it's probably gone through countless power washes in its very short life, so just take a note of that. There's a couple of odd button placements, so you've got the torque function on the indicator stalk. The heated steering wheel button is hidden behind the middle spoke of the steering wheel. To turn off the parking sensors, it's up here, and one of my favorite features is that when you open up the trunk, the button is found where the mounting point for the rear windshield wiper is. So that's my collection of thoughts towards the Porsche Macan. A very, very compelling vehicle. There's nothing about the driving experience in this vehicle that I don't like, and as I've mentioned, it isn't so serious and so focused that it's going to alienate anybody else that wants what is the most attainable Porsche. So even though this has had a host of updates throughout its life, and we're led to believe that the new Macan will be purely electric, I think this will still be a standout choice in the years to come. So thank you very much for taking the time to watching this video. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all of those other great things. Really helps me out a lot. Thanks again. Hope to see you on this channel again soon.